This is the Passive 25K podcast, a podcast built around the vision of creating wealth through passive income for ourselves and others. The idea of creating income while you sleep seems like a dream come true, but for most professionals, turning this into a reality is a different story. On this show, you will hear real people breaking passive income streams down to the basics, giving you the next steps to start your own passive income journey. If you're new to the show, my name is Kyle Reedstrom from Fargo, North Dakota, where I get to work with my team of agents and investors each day to complete our goal of $25,000 a month in passive income. Now, let's get right into our next conversation. This is the Passive 25K podcast with Kyle Reedstrom. We are here for episode 7 with my friend Sarah Link talking about flipping houses step by step. Sarah, thanks for being here today.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited. Never been on a podcast before.
All right. Well, hey, we're glad to have you. Sarah, we have a little bio for you. Thank you for your bio. I actually quoted you as Miss HGTV earlier today. So that was what I was just going to say for your bio, but I'll read your official verbiage to let our audience know more about you. Sarah has been coined the Swiss Army knife of Hatch Realty. She has many gifts and talents. Some of them she was born with, others she has accumulated through blood, sweat, tears, Google, and Pinterest. I like that. She loves DIY projects, home remodeling and design, and seeing life and homes for what they could be and not what they are, which is perfect for her career at Hatch Realty. Sarah grew up in Fargo-Moorhead community and has a deep love and knowledge of the area. The last few years, she has been using her real estate career to help people through the SNAP offer program sell their homes to investors. She then works directly with the investors and contractors to flip and renovate these homes for profit. So, correct. Sarah, you are, like I said, Miss HGTV. Where does this passion of homes and renovation and even the eye for design come from?
I really have to attribute it back to my parents. So my dad and mom have always kind of renovated the homes that we were in. I remember my dad used to work at Concordia College, and at one point there was a whole row of houses that were going to be demolished for parking lot because Concordia was expanding. And he was able to go in there and kind of snag really great historic pieces. And he put them into our house. And so at one point, our whole floor was ripped up down to where you could see the basement. And he laid in vintage hardwood floors back into our house and put all these awesome touches. And so the reusing of like historical and period pieces was like super prevalent growing up. And then my mom always just had really great ideas. And then my dad implemented those ideas. And so being the firstborn, usually we have a lot of responsibility on our shoulders. And so I got to see all of that firsthand. And it was super just inspiring. And my dad always says he's a jack of all trades, but a master of none. So he knows a lot about a little about a lot. So.
Okay. So you're a combination of Chip and Joanna, Mr. and Mrs. Link. It sounds like a little bit, with some eye for design from your mom, and then some, applicability from what you're saying with your dad, putting these reclaimed, refurbished, like old style wood into your house. How cool is that, man? I never knew that, Sarah.
Yeah, and really cool.
This is something that Is this something you do and implement a lot with your flips? Because I know there's a lot of flippers out there, home rehabbers, whatever you want to go with, that are just grabbing new materials and making it look really sterile and boilerplate. Is this, or do you do kind of both? Is there both sides of the coin there for you?
It's definitely both sides of the coin. Kitchens are really hard to remodel. And looking at it from a listing agent perspective is so different than looking at it from just an investor perspective, because we know what people want and we know what those kind of objections can be when we're relisting and reselling houses. And so sometimes there are a lot of new in the houses, But what I think is really super fun about flipping is when you go into a house and you can kind of just feel what the house wants to be. I mean, there's been times where we've just walked in and my contractor is like, this is the worst house I've ever seen. And I'm like, but I'm going to do this, 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 and this. And he's like, I don't see it. And then we get to that point where it's almost done. He's like, oh, now I see what you're going to do. And it kind of all
Ah,
comes together. And so bringing some of that new and the old and reusing stuff and being creative um, is really fun. And I think it lends a hand to us being super successful.
so I love that, Sarah, but I can't help but think, isn't it a little bit stressful too? Like you have, or is the creative process with home flipping, it's still risky, right? Like you could have a vision for something and it's like, oh no, it didn't turn out. The contractor was right. Like that's what I'm thinking in my head. Like, how could this ever work? And then Sarah shows, pulls back the curtain and shows I was right the whole time. But have you ever been wrong with this stuff?
Um, I think we were wrong in some areas, depending on how we work together with our contractors. So that relationship with your contractor is super important. And if you ask our two contractors right now, I'm super hands-on. I'm out there just checking on things. And the reason I do that is not to double check their work, but I go out there to see if they have encountered any issues. And then we talk through those issues to find a creative solution that they may not have thought and is a better and easier workaround. So I really think that I'm good at problem solving and talking through options just because I do watch a lot of HGTV. I do watch a lot of This Old House. I do a lot of Pinterest. I've encountered stuff in my own home or my parents' home that I've kind of thought like maybe this would work. Um, and so I think that's where we're a little bit different is I'm out there every day. I don't just design it and let it go. I'm out there to work through those issues that could come up, and then we're creative to solve something that we didn't know was going to be a hiccup.
Yeah, I'm writing down the word communication right now because I just think of that the two worlds collide with the person holding the hammer that's breaking the wall and the person like yourself that has it's in your brain but it's not there yet. And so I
Yep.
think of you transferring the vision as such a skill. Do you have any tactics for even the audience or that you use to really transfer the vision well? Are you like putting mood boards on the walls in the kitchen, or like how do you get your people to grasp this?
So I do all of the ordering for all of our supplies. I don't leave that to our contractors. So I
Hmm.
source the stuff that I want in the house. That way there's no question as to what my vision is.
Hmm.
Um, I choose the paint colors, I choose, how things are going to be laid out. I go through and just make sure that those are matching what I had anticipated. And then if there's ever a question, the contractors know to call me. Um, and sometimes I will say, you know what, I don't care. That doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. Just go choose something. Um, and they usually choose the right thing. But in the grand scheme of things, it didn't really matter as much as some of those other pieces. And so I think that that level of trust and communication is super important when you're working with different trades.
Yeah, like there's certain autonomy you can give them to
Yep.
be like, hey, do your thing. This
Yep.
is your world. But then, yeah, for the things that you want, I think that's such a good nugget. You need to get the materials. You need to have it there. I think sometimes we can leave ourselves up for a lot of surprise if we're going to say, hey, this is, here's a inspo pic on Pinterest of the kitchen I want. And then,
Mhm.
oh, it doesn't turn out that way, right? That makes a lot of sense what you're
Right.
saying here, Sarah. Um, I want to back up a little bit. I want to get into some of your backstory on kind of how you got here, Sarah, because you haven't always been in the world of snap offers, which is the business you and Eric have kind of built together to renovate homes. I mean, a few years back, you started as a normal real estate agent, right? Can you kind of walk through your journey on how you found yourself into this world?
Yeah, so I started by becoming a listing partner, so supporting the listing agents in our office. I was a fresh realtor almost 6 years ago now, and I just knew that I wanted to learn as much as I could under the tutelage of some three awesome listing agents, and that was the direction that really spoke to maybe my personality a little bit more than other areas. And when I graduated up to be a listing agent, we had the opportunity to do these snap offers. It was something that all agents could do. And I really liked it. I really felt that it was serving people, and that it was giving them options that they had never had before. And not everybody enjoyed presenting these snap offers to people because it's not it's not a great experience for most, because it's based on death and divorce and financial issues and those types of things is why they're coming to us with these options. And I really enjoyed being able to be like, hey, let me wrap my arms around you with these options. Let me walk hand in hand with you. Let me just kind of go through this process and figure out what's best for you. And I could help them in so many different ways. And if they chose the snap offer, I promised them that I would take care of their house and I would make it to what it was supposed to be and what they had always wanted it to be. And that, I don't know, that just spoke to me. And so Eric and I were like, he's like, hey, how about you just do this full time? We'll just cut all the other people out. They don't really like doing this. They're not good at it. They're not passionate at it. Let's just give it to you and you run with it and you take care of these people and you see what we can do. And here we are.
That's okay. Wow. And it's so how it's a paradox almost of what you're saying, because I think of home flippers as like transactional. They're gonna, they're gonna take a house and they're gonna turn it, they're gonna rip it apart and turn it into something new, and it's kind of like slash and burn type of thing. It's like you do as many as you can, do hundreds of houses. But I'm hearing such a different competitive edge on your end with empathy, and there's people that own these homes. And I mean, has this really helped you get obviously made connection, but also helped
Mhm.
you get the deals done, Sarah? Has this been in a competitive place too, right?
Yeah, I mean, I love to win and I would love to beat out every other investor in our market. But I do know that I'm different and not everybody is looking for me to take care of their house and to take care of them. And so, I mean, I'm okay with losing some of them because I know that the people that really need me, I have time for them.
Hmm.
Um, I'm not so overwhelmed that I can't take care of the people that I promised to take care of.
Yeah. Wow. And Eric talked to us a little bit about creating options for these sellers. And
Mhm.
so we dove into that, but I mean that's the gist of what you're doing when you're meeting with these homeowners, right? Like you're sitting in their living room, you're having these conversations, you're listening to their story, you're solving their problems. I just want you to bring the audience into some of the how that works on your end, almost even from the beginning. Like you kind of get a lead, and maybe you can take it from there, Sarah.
Yeah. So um, our initial meeting is very short and sweet. I don't want to be a burden on them. They're usually very embarrassed for me to come into their house because if it's been their home and it's in disrepair, um, they're embarrassed. Who wouldn't be? And so
Hmm.
my goal is to focus on the things that I need to focus on and make sure that they know that there's no judgment, there's no pressure to make a decision. We give them, 30 days to make a decision so that they can talk to the people that they need to talk to and that they can ask questions and really feel good and secure about their decision. But I go into their house, I introduce myself, I kind of tell them about the process, and then I let them show me around. I'm looking at all of the structure of the house. I'm looking at the bones of the house. What does the foundation look like? What things are we going to need to repair? What our sellers going to, or what our buyers going to look like at the market, and say, okay, is this house, does this have what I need? Do we need to add something? What are the objections? And then, I mean, that meeting sometimes takes 15 minutes and sometimes it can be an hour, because I just sat there and heard about how they raised their entire family in this house and they're super sad to leave it, but they just can't take care of it anymore. And whether it's 15 minutes or an hour, I don't care. Like, I'm there, I block my time off. I give them as much or as little as they need. And then typically within about 3 days, I'll get back to them. If they need it faster, I'll give it to them faster. I'll just work that much harder. In the end, my goal isn't to get the deal. My end goal is to help them out. And so I've walked into places where other investors have already offered them deals and they have a timestamp on them. And I've actually asked them, I'm like, okay, what was the offer? Let me see if I can beat it. Like, I won't use it against you. Let me see if I can beat it. If I can't beat it, you call those people up and you take it and run. But I know that I can take better care of you. And so let me see if I can beat that offer. And most times I can, but there's been a couple that I've walked away from, and I'm okay with that because they are getting what they need from someone else. And that's just part of the business.
Yeah. We got a little bit of the reason why someone would want to go down the option path of a snap offer. And it was because the house is distressed, because the house is cluttered, because they don't want the inconvenience of people coming to their house. Like you said, embarrassment, or the seller is just distressed in the life situation. They need to move and do something in life. And so when you're coming into these situations, I think it's so interesting to hear some of your tactics with giving them time, that open book mentality. We heard that with Eric a lot, and I can sense it and hear it with you. It's just, here's our cards. If we can work together, we can work together. And I think this industry of flipping, it's just refreshing to hear some of the truth behind how you guys are doing it. So just know that this isn't what we always hear in the cutthroat real estate world. You know what I mean? But having said that, you guys do a lot of work. I mean, you guys have done a lot of stuff. And how many homes have you done? Like, you're working on some this year, but like last year, for instance, what was that? What did that year look like for you guys?
I think we did 15.
Okay.
Maybe. Honestly, they're all running together.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Last year was really busy for us, and a lot of them carried over until this year, at the beginning of this year. So it's kind of hard to know exactly how many we did, but we did quite a few. I want to say it was around 15.
Yeah, and I mean, pencil that out. That's more than one a month. You guys were definitely cranking through them. And those range, Sarah, for some of them you were going, as Eric said, lipstick on a pig, and some of them, I mean, are you going full out renovation?
Yep. Some of them we got bathrooms and kitchens, and some of them we literally just put flooring and paint in.
And the interesting perspective you have, you touched on it, is you also have the eye of a listing agent. So you're not just straight investor side. You're thinking of this like, hey, this needs to sell eventually. How has that helped you in this? Is that something that people should consider, or is that give you kind of an edge on this?
Yeah. So we do a full inspection on the properties that we purchase. And so one of the things that I look at when we're doing the renovating process is taking care of a majority of the items that are on that inspection sheet, so that when we go to sell it, we know that it's safe and ready for the next buyer. I've seen so many videos and reviews on investor flippers that the houses are terrible. I mean, they're like just
You're
falling
talking about the
apart.
flippers. You're talking about the flippers that just cover up the problems, right?
Yeah, for sure. They just cover them up. They don't do the things that they want to do. But we're going in there and we're bracing basements and we're, tearing out walls because there wasn't proper insulation, and we're majority of the time ripping out every single piece of flooring and making sure that it's safe. And we bring in, electricians to do the electrical repairs, and we're updating those types of things. So um, I just want it to be a safe place, and I don't want there to be a lot of objections when we go to sell it. And that's the hardest part as a listing agent, is to anticipate what's going to come up in an inspection or appraisal. And I think we've got a leg up with that, is that we're trying to anticipate that, and based on the inspection report, because I've had a history of that. And so I think it helps things go a little bit more smoothly, and also gives people a little peace of mind when they're looking at one of our renovations.
No kidding. I mean, have you ever shared the previous inspection reports, or is that something you keep and then get the issues done like you've said, or?
So it's hard to share them because the houses were in such disrepair before that it might feel overwhelming. But I go through that inspection report and I put it all in the property disclosure. So
Okay.
any issues that were previously in that inspection report, I have disclosed 100% in that disclosure. And so
Yeah,
if they have
okay.
any questions, I'm more than happy to share it with them, but it's not something that we normally share, just because buyers get really scared of some of those things. If they
Yeah.
would have seen what it looked like before, they might be turned off,
Yeah.
even though
Or
we
over
have the receipt.
exaggerate the
Yeah,
actual condition.
right.
But to your point, you get an inspection report that says, hey, there's some cracking in the foundation, the walls
Yep,
are receiving some earth pressure. You guys go in, brace it up, finish it off, but then you're just putting that in the disclosure saying, hey, this is what we saw, this is how we fixed it.
correct. Yep,
Yeah, kind of the paper trail there. You
yep,
know, going back, you're in that initial meeting, you're doing the walkthrough with the homeowner, and you're kind of you're looking at the house from a standpoint of, like, what needs to be done. You're kind of picking up on
mhm.
cues. How much, are you able to put together a general estimate? Are you getting pretty deep detail in your estimates for, like, the repair, or are you just kind of taking back general notes and you guys are kind of pricing that stuff in? How detailed do you get on that? Because I think this is where a lot of investors get wrong. They're like,
Yep.
uh, they way overestimate, or they don't build in enough fluff, right?
Yeah, so I'm pretty conservative with my numbers, because I don't want to be caught in a situation where we're losing money. But I also want to make sure that our sellers are getting the most money. So it's really a delicate balance. But we've done it enough, and I do enough of my own DIY at home that I know what the cost of things are. And so I think that's lent to some really good, solid numbers. And I can go through and just be like, okay, I know this is what it's going to cost. And then I just add them up in my head and figure it out.
Okay. And then you're taking some of those big time costs, generalized, of course, building that
Mhm.
into your initial snap offer. And that
Yep,
comes back to them as one number. Here's what we'll buy the house for. No fees,
correct.
nothing like that. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, so they typically get an email from me laying out all of their options. And it's, like, if you were to do X, Y, and Z, this is, and wanted to list it on the market, you get this option. If you want to not do anything and put it on the market, here's your next price. And then here's that snap offer price of, you just sell it to us, no hassle, no fuss, and we'll buy it from you in 2 weeks. So,
Yeah. See, I think that's so huge for people to hear too, because I think so many people create a one-way door
mhm.
with this business. And what you guys are doing is, like, look behind door number 1, 2, or 3. It's like, hey, if we do some of these tweaks and we can kind of help you and refer contractors to you, and you guys even do a $10,000 loan for
Yep.
renovations, you'll provide. I mean, what an
Yep.
amazing value for the owner to do those things and then capture the resale appreciation or value, the increase in value. Option one, you can
Yeah.
list it as is, like you said, Sarah, you could be the representative for them and say,
Yep.
let's put it on the market. And then it's also like, hey, we don't really want to have people in our house for X, Y, and Z. Then snap offer option is there for just quick close, be done with it, convenience.
Yep. Yeah. What's really interesting is that there have been times where I give them their snap offer and I'm like, I don't think you should take it. I think you should list it. I think
Hmm.
you'd be kind of silly to take it. I think you can, in your scenario, it would, be a better option for you to just list it and capture that more money. And they're like, nope, nope, we're going to do the snap offer. And I'm like, and I ask them like 15 times, like, are you sure? Because I want to make sure that you're not going to feel either taken advantage of. That's
Yeah.
my biggest fear is that
Yep.
I always say, here's my email, forward this on to that's why I like to give them time. Forward this on to your loved ones, your kids, your brother, whatever, to look over. And if they have questions, they can call me directly. Because I don't
Mm.
ever want people to say, oh, she came in and she stole my mom's house, or,
Yeah. 100%.
so I'm very careful about that because I know this is their biggest asset and they're entrusting us to do the right thing. Um, yeah.
That is super cool to hear the behind the scenes of some of that, the interactions with sellers, even you telling them to send it on, really looking out for their best interest. I think this super refreshing. Like I said, Sarah, we're gonna take a little break, but when we come back, I want to get deep into like what are you doing when you renovate a kitchen or you're looking at a bathroom. I even saw recently like you painted your own floor in your house black as a selection, like a voluntary selection, but like your vision turned out. I've seen pictures, so it's like we want to get into some of how your thinking goes with your selections and how you make these houses into what they are, which are attractive listings for people to buy. So we'll take a little break and then we're going to dive deep into that. Hey, wanted to take a quick break from this week's episode. Wondering if you ever ask yourself, how do I get started in this stuff? Or if I'm already doing it, what are some next steps or people that are doing the same thing that I want to do, people on this passive income journey? Well, we were getting that question and we created a community of passive income investors called Passive Income University. This is a place where you can watch videos, things that we've done, where we put tools and information, where we've built a community of people that can communicate, ask questions, and grow together to start their passive income journey. And eventually we complete our passive income journey together. If you're interested in more info on Passive Income University, check us out at p25kg.com. All right, we are back with Sarah Link, flipping houses step by step. Sarah's given us some great nuggets to start, really diving into her process initially. Now, Sarah, I want to get into like when you're getting through a house. They selected the snap offer. They say, hey, we're going to be out of here. You're buying it. You guys have went to the closing table. It's yours now. It's time to execute the vision. I really think people need to know or want to hear some perspective on like, how do you actually start going through this? Or how do you see a kitchen that needs to be redone. How are you making the selections? Where are you going for the selections? And then even if you have, and I know you do based on some of the experience you said with your dad, how are you doing some of the hacks where you're like saving old materials or using constructibility techniques that aren't going to be, break the budget? I know I just loaded a lot in that question for you, but walk us through kind of this part of the process where you're in the home reno.
Yeah. So the first thing that we kind of do is figure out what those big ticket items are and schedule those trades to come in. So, do we need electrical issues addressed? Do we need foundation issues addressed? Do we need a new roof? Those types of things, because we want to get those scheduled right away. Typically, I try to schedule those even before we've closed, just because things get backed up and we want our timeline to stay pretty tight. And then we do a walkthrough with our contractors. We're lucky enough to employ 2 contractors or handymen full time for our flips. And so my projects are their only projects. Um, and then we start talking about what we can tackle. And so my biggest two things are kitchens and bathrooms, because I don't like gross kitchens and bathrooms, right? So
No one
I
does.
no, it's one of those things of like, if the rest of the house is not great, if a kitchen and bathroom is clean, I think that's super important for resale, right?
Hmm.
I don't like dirty, icky cabinets. And so a lot of times we are replacing them, because it's a lot easier than to get that grime off and to repaint them, and most of these houses don't have high quality stuff left in them. So we're just getting Menards cabinets. So the Clearview cabinetry, it comes in two colors. It's usually in stock. You can design it online. It's super easy to put together. Now, does it get a little wonky because of like houses that don't have straight walls? Sure. Do we have to come up with some creative solutions? Sure. But it provides a clean kitchen. And then bathrooms, I always look at the size of the bathroom and if we can make it any bigger. We did one where the bathroom was so tiny and it was going to be a 4-bedroom house. And this bathroom, it was like sink, toilet, tub, and there was no other space. I'm like, there's no way a large family can ever buy this house. And so we got creative and expanded the bathroom into the kitchen by readjusting a wall, because the kitchen was already really big. And so those are the things that we kind of talk through and see what's going to work with plumbing layouts, and because we don't want to change any of that, right? We want to try to do as least amount of plumbing and electrical changes as possible, because those are the most expensive things that you can do, because you have to have outside trades come in and do those. And so we really try to do the bare minimum with those types of things. And then I just, Menards and Home Depot are my jam. I mean, they've got a ton of stuff that's great for having in stock, and they're relatively inexpensive. And then we zhuzh it up with flooring, and sometimes we'll tile a backsplash if we need it. I also look at like adding something that somebody's going to talk about. So if you've ever looked at houses, you know that that when you go to a house, you always name that house, right? You always say, oh, remember the stinky bathroom house, or the green carpet house, or
Like the exterior. I remember I was showing a client and they're like the stucco house because it had stucco on the outside, and that was kind
yeah,
of unique for that neighborhood. So
right. So I want somebody to walk away and remember the house. And so I always try to put something in it that's going to be a little different. And so that's always in my mind of like, what could that be? Could it be some like a coffee bar? Could it be the tile backsplash? Could it be that it has like a huge pantry? Like, so just trying to figure out what can make that house special. I actually did a house where it was probably my favorite house, because we added square footage and we left these really cool arches with bricks, and we painted it in some moody colors, and it really felt good. And to see that come alive was really cool. But in one of our very first flip houses in the garage, the sellers had left some like acacia wood flooring in random various lengths, like this big to this big and was already pre-finished. And I used it on a wall vertically to give it some texture. And I just had it sitting around. So it wasn't anything that we spent time, it was just my time putting into it. And I think it just made such a huge difference, because it just gave that new space something that tied it into the rest of the old spaces. So that's kind of where I go when I first walk into a house, and then where I kind of like concentrate some of my efforts is usually kitchens, bathrooms, and then we work with Carpet Garage. They're fantastic. They do all of our flooring. They know exactly what we like. And then I can go and make adjustments if the house is giving me a different feeling or a different vibe.
Wow, Sarah, that was packed with so many things. I'm going to review a little bit here just for our audience so they're not missing. Okay, so cabinets, just ditch them. Like the gross so many people try to sand down old cabinets, save them, paint them. Like, hey, clean cabinet. And I resonate with that point now that I'm thinking of it. Like, it's a hard thing to commit to. Like, we got to get rid of it feels like you're getting rid of the whole kitchen, but fresh cabinets, boom, fresh kitchen. I love that. Sizing in bathroom, especially with some of these houses you're doing, I'm guessing they're older. So you encounter this bathroom sizing issue quite a bit. Do you ever take like bathtubs out and put showers in, or are you just, generally just looking to, are you reconfiguring the space a lot or actually adding space?
We've added space to a couple, I try not to reconfigure because that can just cause some plumbing issues.
That makes sense.
But yeah, bathrooms also gross me out. So, but we do have a couple. I always change out the toilets. That is like the one thing that I do.
Okay, toilets.
We'll always get a new toilet in one of my renovations.
That's good. That's good note. And I love that you mentioned electrical and plumbing, because some of the biggest spots that I want to dive into here are, where are the pits of costs for people? Where are these holes that are going to blow the budget for people? Budget busters, we'll call them that. Electrical, plumbing. These are professionals that have to come in because the work, you can't do the work unless you're licensed. And these are probably some of the biggest bills you've seen. That's why you're talking about this.
Yep. So I'm going to say this as a caveat for all of you investors that are watching. In the state of North Dakota, you cannot touch any electrical without a permit. And so if you're owning it as an LLC, so I'm part owner in all these flips, I can't even I can't switch out outlets. I can't do anything electrical, even though I'm a part owner, because it's for a business. So you have to get an electrician to do all your electrical work. It's something
what's the consequence here? Like, because what you're alluding to is that some people would say, hey, I've done some electrical, I'm going to do it myself. And they're not going to sign off on that, you're saying?
Well, I mean, I'm going to put a little caveat here of like, if you don't get caught, right?
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. We're above bar on this, on the
I mean, I try to do things the right way. And we had, how this came up was that we had a new panel put in, and we had wires run, but we needed an extra wire we were doing a tankless hot water heater because we needed the extra space. And so our handyman ran a wire, and the electrical inspector came back out to sign off on the panel update. He's like, who ran this? And the electrician's like, I didn't. And he's like, he calls me and he's like, hey, what's going on here? And I was like, well, we're me and the contractor, we're part owners in this. Like, our names are on this. And he's like, yeah, but it's an LLC. You're doing this for a business. It's not owner occupied. You can't do that yourself. And I was like, oh, really? And he's like, yeah. He's like, you're going to get written up. And I was like, please don't do that. And he's like, I'll give you a warning. And I'm like, okay, that sounds good. We'll never do it again. It's a learning experience, and because we thought we were following the rules, because the rules say is if you're an owner, you can do some self-wiring, right? That's not the case if you're doing it for business purposes. So
if you're in a business, there it is. There's a nugget. There's a money saver right there, or a warning saver.
Yes.
Okay. And I really loved your talking point piece, because I'm literally reflecting while you're talking about when I'm showing houses to clients, and we're referencing like 5 different houses, and we're literally picking out big things they liked in each house. And you're saying you create that talking point. You mentioned a couple examples. I'm going to just press into a few more for the audience. Like, what are other talking points that you've created or you've seen? Give us some more examples because I think this is great stuff.
Um, so I also like to do kind of like one fancy light fixture somewhere. I usually go to like Facebook Marketplace for that and just look for some type of light fixture that I can put somewhere, whether it be like it just feels a little bit more elevated instead of the traditional boob lights that everybody puts
Hmm.
up everywhere.
Yep.
Um, I have bought, I keep my eye out for like uh, self-stick wallpaper, and I'll put that in unconventional places. We're actually doing it in our house right now. I'm putting it behind our fridge. Um, Nobody's ever going to see it. Our fridge is like literally built into the wall, but I want somebody to pull that out and be like, oh, that's really cool. Um,
I love
and so
that.
I know it's those little tiny things that I'm just like, I know it's there, and I know that I also stage all of our houses after they're done before we list them. Because the one thing that I can tell you is that a vacant house does not show well.
Mm,
It feels cold, it feels impersonal, and it doesn't feel like home. And so staging a house can be one of your best assets when
mm,
going to resell these. And so um, we've done a really great job at collecting some things from different houses and just keeping them in our storage house or storage unit. But staging has been kind of like that one unexpected that doesn't cost us really any extra money because we own those pieces, but makes a
mm.
world of difference when people are viewing houses and they take that back away from them too and be like, oh, remember that house with the weird pillows or that beautiful bed set or those types of things.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's such a good one too. And it's a budget item for so many people that's
Mhm.
easy to cut because the budget gets a little steep and it's like, well, let's save the extra on staging. What's your staging inventory look like? Because I think some people think it's more than maybe it is. Like, are you just keeping like one bed and a couple couches and some little trinkety stuff, or like what's that look like for you guys to stage a home?
So it started with my own living room and dining room furniture. I I
And your
literally
husband
took, oh my, he
had
was
to be
like,
okay
what
with
are
it?
you doing? I literally emptied out one of our living rooms and our dining room, and I was like, I'm taking this with me. I'm going to put it in a house. He's like, what are you doing? But those pieces are still in our inventory because we just got new stuff then. So
Oh, I see what you did there,
ladies,
Sarah. That
yep.
was smart.
um, no, we have three couches, several chairs. I randomly find things at houses that people leave behind that I stage with. Um, books are a really great one.
Mm,
Um, I love decorating with books, and so and one of the things that I do, and it's kind of nerdy, and I hope somebody will someday notice it. But on beds, I have the Emily Post etiquette book, and I open it up and put it face down on a certain page for what you do when guests are coming over. And so I'm like, it's just something funny, but I hope somebody will open it up and be like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to do, take off my shoes and bring a gift, and so that they kind of um I don't know, it's just like a little extra touch for me. But
mhm,
um I find random cookbooks and put them in the kitchen. And
mhm,
but books are a really easy way if you don't have a ton of stuff. Books and greenery are
mm,
really great ways to bring texture and depth and color. And so you don't need a ton. And sometimes I just choose a couple rooms to decorate. I don't do the whole entire house.
mm,
Every house kind of, it also depends on like how it's laid out. So I always stand and look at different, if you know how pictures are taken on listings, you stand in those areas and see where your eye takes you, and that's
mm.
where you want to stage. And so if you can see multiple rooms, you're going to have to stage multiple rooms. But I only really stage the master bedroom, the living room, dining room, and then kitchen. So it seems like all of the rooms, but kitchens are really easy to stage. It's just a lot of greenery and texture and those types of things. So as far as inventory, you need some pillows, a couch, a couple chairs, random tables.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of these things you can pull from cleanup week that's happening this week,
There
so
you go. Yeah, there you
um,
go.
or that extra decor that your friend was giving away because they don't need it anymore. So
I love the mentality of building this into your business model over time, because for a lot of investors, rehabbers, flippers, they don't plan to do just one. So if you're going to begin with the end in mind here, if you have some availability to store and it's not an oversized amount, especially if you're trying to sell one house and can pull to the next type of thing,
yep.
slowly building that inventory into, hey, you have your staging. And I mean, you're probably saving $2,000 to $4,000 every sale, Sarah, for staging it yourself. That doesn't take long to recoup that cost. So
No.
yeah. And, I think we have a lot of audience members that are sitting on the fence with this topic. They maybe heard Eric talk about the big picture, and now they're hearing some of the granular tactics you're using. But they're sitting on the fence. They thought about it. They've seen someone else do it. Maybe they've even tried and failed at it. What is some guidance you can give them? What is some advice for people that are thinking about doing this that aren't necessarily in the game with your experience level?
So I always there's two things that I think about all the time is the person that could do this, live in it and renovate it. And then I think that is the smartest thing that anybody can do. Like if you can live through your renovation, because you're saving on rent money or another mortgage or those types of things, and you can be there to do the renovations. I think that one is probably my favorite. The other one is to know, well, on both of them, you need to know the costs of everything. So you have to do your research, and you have to do it before you even start. And so going through and seeing what a kitchen costs, how much does that entail? Like all of the little things, you need to know what those numbers are. How much does it cost for a plumber to come out and change your hot water heater? How much does it cost for basement bracing? How much is it going to cost you to do the flooring that you want to do in there? And what does that look like? Because without those numbers, you're really just shooting from the hip, and you're not making a good sound investment or taking a good step. And so I've talked to some other agents in other markets that want to start doing this. And that's the first thing. You got to get somebody if you're not doing it yourself and you're going to hire a contractor, who is that person? What are they going to charge you? What are those costs? Who's going to run the flip? Are you going to do it, or are you going to hire a general contractor? So the biggest money savers is for you to do it yourself and hire out where you can. And don't be afraid to hire out different trades, because they're going to do it way faster than you could ever do it. And they're probably going to do it better. And then don't be afraid to tackle some of the other things that are more labor intensive, because in the end, it's going to save you a ton of money, because labor is your biggest enemy when it comes to your bottom line.
Man, that's sound advice. And to kind of create that vision where you have some cost sheets, where you're maybe referencing and getting estimates, where you're picking out the line items that you and buddies or you and coworkers could do for the labor and what you need to hire. And I really love your tactic of don't be afraid to hire some stuff out, because they'll get it done faster and better sometimes. It can save you money to hire someone do things the right way the first time sometimes. So
I mean, like painting is really inexpensive for you to do it yourself, but sometimes you need them to come in and get it done, because it's like holding up the project, right? So I'd rather spend $3,000 for them to get it done in one day than have it take us a week to prep and do all of this stuff. And in some instances, that makes more sense. And so just knowing the costs of both options is really important, so that you can, maybe you want to do something extra in the bathroom and you want to save that $3,000 and you want to spend $500 and do the painting yourself. So like it gives you some flexibility when things happen and times get tough in the renovation and you're kind of like drowning in invoices, that you have some options to go a different route.
Man, I love that tip because we talk so much on the Passive 25K podcast about people on their passive income journey controlling the things that they can control. And one of those things that Sarah's talking about right here is knowing your cost. This is just a trial and error research game. These are things that shouldn't be surprises that we can control and eliminate a ton of risk. And Sarah's given us some great examples. Sarah, we've got just a little bit more time, and I want to hear an example from a recent flip. If you want to just kind of take us through it a little bit, we just want to kind of get a day in the life of what you're going through and stuff you might be working on recently.
Yeah, so we're just about ready to put one on the market. We have one outside of our market, which has been a big challenge. And so I didn't think it was going to be that big of a deal because I was like, hey, we'll just have people go out there. It's only an hour away, or 45 minutes. I've got family there. I'll just be there whenever. But it has kind of caused us some issues with, lawn care and snow removal, and who's going to do all of those things when we're not familiar with that market. Our contractors have to drive 45 minutes each way to get out there. And so that one has taken us a lot more time. And so the day in the life, like we're trying to juggle a lot of them all at one time and trying to line up flooring here and flooring there. And when can we make the timelines work? And sometimes they just don't work. And it's okay. We've had major delays in this one. And I think we've actually helped. We bought this property a year and a half ago, and we're now but we let it sit for so long, and we let it sit. And you know what happened? The market went up.
That's right.
I mean,
yeah.
we
Time was
lucked
on your side, technically.
We lucked out on probably about 5 properties where we were able to probably market it for about 20% more than had we sold it and did it right away. And so know your limits, know your resources, because that's what stumps me every single day is like, I'm busy, my contractors are busy. I want to do all of these things in all of my flips. And sometimes I'm like, oh, I wish I could do this. And I say that all the time. And at the end, I'm like, oh, let's not mess with that. It's just another thing. And so there's just a lot of decisions and to be made every single day. And I think the thing that gets me every day is that as long as these houses are safe and sound, I'm okay with it not having everything in it. And I think that's the biggest thing that I can tell anybody is that know your limit, know how far you want to push it, know your resources, know your timelines and stick to them.
Yeah, and I love the tip because this doesn't have to be a risky game if you dive into what Sarah's saying with those topics. Right, Sarah? Like that's the risk involved here. It's the unknown, the mystery for so much of that stuff. And it's just pounding the pavement on getting answers to those things.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I think I'm a little removed. I'm playing with other people's money and not necessarily a lot of mine. So it's a little bit easier for me. But I've been entrusted to caretake this money for people. So I'm a little bit more cautious, but I wish I would have invested a long time ago and done some of these things because it's really fun. It can be really fruitful. And it's a good way to spend your time. So.
Oh man, I love it. And your experience shows, Sarah, you've given us I have a page full of nuggets that I've written down. Sarah, I know from firsthand that you're a really fun person to follow and see what you're doing, especially with work and life. Where can people find you if they're, curious to learn more about what you're up to? Where can they find you?
You can follow me on Instagram at The Link Life. You can find me on Facebook at Sarah Link. And you can reach out to hatchrealty.com and read my bio and contact me there.
Awesome. Awesome. Definitely check out what Sarah's up to. She's always posting pictures of not only stuff she's doing, but stuff at her own house, aka the black floors. I still think that's pretty cool. Sarah, you have been someone that has been super fun, and to see your career grow. You've been super fun to see passion in what you're doing with a lot of these houses, and to hear your relationship with your clients and how you look out for them, and just the way you do business is just something I admire. So I'm super happy to have you on the podcast, and you've shared a ton. Thank you so much for being on.
Thanks for having me.
This has been the Passive 25K podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss future conversations. Also, tell us what you thought by leaving a comment below on today's topic. If something really hit with you, don't be afraid to share this with someone else that's interested in passive income. Thanks again for tuning in. I'll catch you next time for another episode of the Passive 25K podcast.